Bismillah
Bismillah.
ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. It is exactly 9:35 a.m. and we're now going to be looking at the order of the Judicial Conduct Committee appeal panel that Mogoeng Mogoeng should apologize unconditionally. I think we all have a background to this drama, but to fill us in on the finer details of this unconditional or unreserved apology by Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng, we have Director of Africa for Palestine, Muhammed Desai, to talk to us about this issue. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam, and Jazakallah so much for having me and for covering this issue.
Okay, important indeed, and I kind of always wondered how it would play out. I still get a sense, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I still get a sense that Mogoeng Mogoeng has apologized, albeit half-heartedly or kind of reservedly. What's your take on the issue?
Well, as an organization, we are welcoming the apology, even though he quite correctly states that he is forced to do so by the law. He correctly states that he is forced to do so by the law, but we think that this is even more significant. The fact that he was compelled to do so, it indicates a positive element within our judiciary and within our justice system, that nobody is above the law, that you will be called to account for your actions, especially and particularly, and obviously, if those actions have to violate the judicial code of conduct. So we welcome it as a good day for the South African judiciary. We also welcome it as a good day for Palestinian activism and for Palestinian solidarity within our country. The truth is that the Chief Justice could have saved us a lot of time by apologizing when we had first laid the complaint. However, he was within his right to follow through with the various appeals processes, which he ultimately lost. And in some ways, he was brought to the apology table kicking and screaming. But nevertheless, it is an apology, it is accepted, and we do hope that it's a very clear message to those wanting to interfere from within our justice, within our legal system, with the foreign policy that our government has adopted on behalf of the people of South Africa.
Grudging apology didn't sit well with me at all, but be that as it may, why is Africa for Palestine and other such organizations being so gracious about uh, this very grudging apology? I mean, a man of that stature, you would expect that he would be more possibly insightful to the feelings of people, very especially from where him and the rest of us come from a state of apartheid.
So, Julie, you're putting so many things into context by in the way you phrased your question, and you're quite correctly pointing to several important things. Firstly, the fact that the Chief Justice would have departed from the legacy of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, of our former presidents, whether it's former President Thabo Mbeki, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, our current President Cyril Ramaphosa, our anti-apartheid icons Ahmed Kathrada, Oliver Tambo, and others, who have all been very clear in their support and in the support of South Africa more generally with the people of Palestine. So it was rather disappointing that the Chief Justice had chosen such a reactionary and such a problematic position when it comes to the state of Israel. I think something that's even of more concern to many of us was the continued insinuation that our complaint that we had lodged as Africa for Palestine with the Judicial Services Commission, the insinuation by the Chief Justice that this was an attack on his faith and this was an attack on his religion, which is entirely untrue and couldn't be further from the truth. The fact of the matter is that we challenged the Chief Justice based on his entering into a political controversy, him violating the judicial code of conduct. And we're stressing this point about the insinuation of an attack on his religious beliefs because it's really an injustice to the vast majority of of the Palestinian Christian community, but also of the various South African churches who have in the last 5 or 6 years adopted boycott of Israel resolutions, have come out very clearly in their support of the Palestinian people. We're talking about the Presbyterian Church, the Anglican Church of Southern Africa, the United Congregational Church of Southern Africa, and these various churches, these various South African Christian communities having come out so clearly in support of the Palestinian people, these actions are being trampled on by the way in which the Chief Justice has tried, the former Chief Justice Mogoengs Mogoeng, has tried to frame this issue. And so we took umbrage with the fact that the Chief Justice tried to make this insinuation, but also at the fact that he should have known better. He should have really been on the right side of history. He has chosen an embarrassing side of history, but so be it.
That he grudgingly apologized because his pension was at stake here. And it's, a very big pension, I might add. So perhaps that too plays a role. And I kind of also feel that it's really timely that he's stepping down at this stage of our history in South Africa, with so much having gone down, and still with state capture, with the Zondo Commission and the report coming out. The fact that we South Africans are now trying very hard to pull ourselves up and forge ahead as a nation. This is not the type of leadership we're looking forward to, or this is not the type of leadership we want to follow, is it?
I think this is really, again, two things that I want to point out. I think the one is may indeed be the issues of pension and of further disgrace being brought upon him. That's why he felt compelled to make this apology. But I also think it's probably very depressing to be in the camp of the Israeli lobby. They lost their court case regarding the Chief Justice Mogoengs Mogoeng, one that they were pursuing. They lost their court case regarding Miss South Africa and the South African government having taken a pro-Palestinian position. They've been losing their legal cases consistently in the last decade in this country. They lost their case against Continental Media and the Billboard company that had put up a pro-Palestinian messaging. They had lost their case when they had taken 5FM to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. There is a trend in which the Israeli lobby no more has that threat that they used to have in the past, wherein they will use the law to try to stifle and try to silence the Palestinian solidarity movement. And this is really not as a result of Africa for Palestine or any other organization, but this is as a result of the fact that ordinary South Africans have made the Palestinian struggle their struggle. They've insisted to stand their ground, that whilst the Palestinians are refusing to submit on their knees and are standing on their feet, that Palestinians are unapologetically behind them. And I think that really this victory that we see with the Chief Justice apologizing for his pro-Israel remarks should also be attributed to the vast number of supporters of the Palestinian struggle in our country who have in the last decade consistently been fighting for their right to stand with the Palestinian people. I think that you are right that that there is a need for moral and ethical leadership. So even if the Chief Justice had the right within the judicial code of conduct to enter into political controversy, that he should have also had an ethical backbone, which would have insisted that he takes his position from the side of the oppressed, that he uses the lenses of the oppressed to view the world and not the lenses of the oppressor. And so it is a good thing that we don't have a reactionary Chief Justice anymore, and we look forward to the incoming Chief Justice that will take his position.
And let's hope and pray, inshallah, that the new Chief Justice will be very, very objective. That being said, I'm wondering about your thoughts. I spoke to Shanila Mohammed on Tuesday or Wednesday, about the Amnesty International report stating that Israel is now recognized as an apartheid state. How it must really and truly be a big win as far as organizations such as yourself is concerned. However, do you think it's going to change anything as far as the rights of the Palestinian people are concerned? What do you expect to come out of this report by world leaders, by the UN, by Amnesty International, and other such bodies?
A landmark and groundbreaking, really something that is shifting within the larger global international Palestine solidarity movement, is the fact that once upon a time it was controversial to use the A word, it was controversial to call Israel an apartheid state. Not anymore. I think that the fact that B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights organization, the fact that Human Rights Watch, the fact that now Amnesty International, these are mainstream international, many of them US-based and funded organizations, are coming out and joining the rest of the world. I mean, really, we mustn't make this seem as if they are the first ones to have stumbled on this position. They are really catching up with the rest of the world. They're catching up, for example, with the Human Sciences Research Council of South Africa, which in 2009 already had produced a report detailing how Israel has committed the crime against apartheid. But I think that, again, Sister Julie, that the fact that Amnesty International has come out now is also an indication of, and also a result of, the years of activism of South Africans, of Africans, and of people across the world. For example, the very successful Israeli Apartheid Week campaign that used to be run in this country was one way in which activists normalized the idea that Israel is an apartheid state. And so I think that the next step, which we as Africa for Palestine have been strategizing for the last 1 year now, is how to take Israel being an apartheid state to international bodies such as the United Nations, such as the International Court of Justice, and other international bodies that can now that can now implement measures to hold Israel accountable for the violation of the crime of apartheid. And so we really hope that, using the energy both from within South Africa, but also with the backing of these various reports that have come out in the recent months, that we can now successfully successfully lead our campaign within the UN and other structures to impose measures on Israel similar to the measures that were once imposed against apartheid South Africa.
Finally, how significant or insignificant was the issue last week with President Cyril Ramaphosa receiving a letter of credence from some Israeli, I think it was a diplomat, can't quite remember who exactly it was, but how significant was that event? And do we hold him, do we take him to task for it?
So again, two elements. The first element is that I think the Israeli lobby tried to make a bigger deal out of what was happening. It was a matter of handing over of credential papers. However, at the same time, as Africa for Palestine, we welcome the fact that there was an outcry across South Africa that there shouldn't be an Israeli ambassador in our country. And I think that whilst the African National Congress at its last conference in 2017 had adopted a resolution for the closure and for the downgrade of the South African embassy in Tel Aviv, that now the time has come, and especially that the ANC is going to a conference at the end of this year, the time has now come also for the closure of the Israeli embassy in South Africa. So whilst the resolution that we had managed to get passed 5 years ago was for the closure of the embassy in Tel Aviv, we now must, and especially given the recent outcry, we must now push for the closure of the Israeli embassy in Pretoria as well. And so this is something that we should be that we're not only welcoming the outcry, but it's also a good reminder that we need to continue the mobilization.
And that's where we leave it. Mohammed Desai, the director of Africa for Palestine. Nice talking to you. Keep well and keep up the amazing work. Salaam alaikum to you till the next time, inshallah.
Shukran and wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It is exactly 9:50 a.m. We're moving on to our final interview for the morning, and that's with a new member of our Salam Media family. His name is Faisal Patel, but we'll have him on air in a minute or two.